Hello everyone, Raycon Number here. In this video, I'll be reviewing chapters 8 and 9 of the Omori Manga, with both of these chapters having a lot to do with the guilt these characters carry and the blame they put on themselves and others. So, reminder that I discuss the entire story of Omori in these reviews, and that Omori contains subject matter including violence and suicide. And remember that a lot of what I bring up here are just my personal opinions and interpretations. Starting with chapter 8, we pick right back up with the gang falling down the hole that sends Omori into the lost library. Already shouting to him is new, as in the game they all fall silently and then disappear. This isn't a noteworthy change or anything like that, but I just wanted to point it out. Getting into the library, I'll start by saying the parts in the library segment are awesome, and I especially have to give my highest compliments to this dual page that I'm showing on the screen right now. This shot beautifully conveys Omori journeying through his memories of him and the gang as kids. This spread should feel super wordy because of how many text boxes we have, but the way it's designed just feels so good. There's good spacing provided by the nice looking visuals, such as the tree. It's a great looking replacement to the page break that doubles as a chilling reminder of where these memories lead. The bottom of the page in the tree looks beautiful, with the tree roots and light surrounded by pretty flowers. But at the top it gets dark, and you have to remember the significance of a tree with dark branches. Mari and her long dark hair that forms the design for something that gets hung on the tree. For any of the readers new to Omori who hadn't picked up on it already, the library makes it very clear that what we see here is Sunny's inner fantasy happening in the present time. This is the first fragment of the truth. Omori starts getting stressed out when the subject of playing the violin comes up in the books. That is because this is the lead up into the event that truly started the story. Sunny pushing Mari down the stairs, which results in her death. There is some ambiguity to the confrontation between Sunny and Mari at the top of the stairs, so I'll explain how I see it for what is relevant right now. Sunny was put under immense pressure to be good at playing the violin, and did not want to let anyone down. He wanted to match his talented perfectionist sister. He did not enjoy playing the violin to the same degree that she did, or desire to become great at it, so the time that he lost with his friends, along with the stress while practicing that built up, wore on him deeply. So here, the violin practice starts poking at his deepest repressed memories. He refuses to look any further, and then he notices Basil. And oh my god, this panel is terrifying, it's awesome, and it's absolutely one of my favorites in the manga so far. I cannot compliment this panel enough, I'm still not over it. Easily the freakiest panel yet, and I mean that in the best way possible. Basil is crying, contorted, and surrounded by Basil's something, all while his mouth barely manages to form a smile. You can really feel Basil's agony here. All the pages following this until we go back to the real world are fantastic as well. This is the peak of what the manga can offer visually that the game did not. It's worth reading the manga just for moments like these alone, in my opinion. Going forward, Basil thanks Omori for finding him and begs him not to forget him, which was first mentioned in the manga in chapter 5 after Space Boy leaves. This plays into black space and everything surrounding that, which I will need to thoroughly brush up on when the time comes, because honestly I do not understand that part as well as other parts of the story. Still really good, but there's a lot going on there. So after facing Basil, Omori has a breakdown, sending him to white space for the second time in the manga. Here we have the first instance of Omori's knife falling from the ceiling and him stabbing himself. This is another great looking page, with the expressions that the manga provides being a really strong point to me. It helps sell the emotions of the scene, which is especially important for the manga as the loss of details due to the very fast pacing that we've had so far can make the emotional moments fall flatter. We've seen this before. Omori's fearful and pained expressions from him seeing the knife through to him using it are really great. The start of day 2 of 2 days left is a bit different from the game. Instead of Sunny going home, it looks like he passed out in Basil's house when he went into headspace for Sweetheart's castle. So when he wakes up from the lost library, he's at Kel's house instead of his house. I don't have any issues with this change at the moment. Nothing notable happens in the house, aside of you being given the choice to ignore Kel or not. And since this is following the Omori route, he would open the door anyway. I especially like it because we get a new scene showing how Kel also has the problem of being compared to his more traditionally capable sibling. The usually relaxed and bouncy Kel being stiff as a board in the scene is really nice and good for his characterization. He has to hear the dreaded phrase, "be more like your sibling," that anyone who grew up being compared to a family member knows painfully well. Here, you can really tell how deep below his positive and upbeat personality, he also has issues weighing him down too. This part of the story is especially great for Kel's character. As for me, it was the moment where you get to see the cracks form beneath his kind, positive exterior that helps explain why he acts out so much and wants attention and headspace. You could put this together in the game too, but here, like many of the main points they're making, it's being a bit more direct. But at least here, it's in a good way. Like with the scene of Aubrey in her house with her mom. This is a great new scene that helps propel the heavy emotions of these chapters. I'm grateful that I did not experience this kind of treatment, and everyone who did has my deepest sympathy. And for the MILF hunters out there, this scene also gives us a more detailed design for Kel's mom. I'm not one of those people, but to any of them out there, I respect it. You and Kakumine, you're fine in my book. Unless it gets returned to after the scene at the old hangout spot, it seems that the daytime segment of this day is skipped, which is definitely a shame, as you're able to see some of the real-world things that inspired Headspace. You miss out on a lot of flavor text and stuff like that, but I'm not going as far as to say that we needed to see Sunny delivering pizzas or anything. Again, the pacing is diluting your attachment and engrossment into the world, which does sting. This skip includes saying hi to Basil in the park before his run-in with Aubrey and the hooligans as well. They acknowledge needing to get groceries and that Hiro will be coming back, but they go straight to Basil's house to check up on him. Here, they learn that he is missing like in the game, except they didn't see him in the park previously. An important point for Basil that is left the same is that he seems to not trust his caretaker, even though according to Kel, she is doing a good job. And as far as we know, she is genuinely trying her best to take care of him and his grandmother. She directs them to go to the park, where they look around until they hear Basil yell like in the game. A new addition is that Sunny has a flashback to a previous time they were here, the memory of which was included in the library in both the game and in the manga. But this one focuses on looking at Basil. This addition helps convey that Sunny is becoming more mentally active towards his memories. It puts some emphasis on Basil in Sunny's mind. It also further emphasizes the passage of time, as the library shows the statue they jumped into the lake with in full, while in the present it's missing pieces. The chapter ends with Kel and Sunny walking in on the confrontation between Aubrey and the hooligans. We'll get properly into the scene next chapter, but this is an excellent page to end on. All the characters have great expressions that well convey the emotions of the scene to follow pretty well. Aubrey is here with her bat brandished in the last page, but with this page you can tell that she is not happy in this situation. Basil is genuinely having a breakdown, with his mouth open showing that he is still screaming, or at least holding his mouth open after shouting for help, and with sweat and tears pouring down his face. Kel and Sunny clearly see this situation as very serious right away, which makes sense, as Basil is the last person you would expect to shout, especially when you consider that in the ball situation, he didn't scream for help there. For new viewers, I think this page would leave them with strong anticipation for the next chapter. So, in totality, this is continuing the trend of being a chapter that I will call a mixed bag of good and bad when it comes to portraying Omori as a series. The art is awesome, and is able to give us visuals that the game can't, along with giving us some additional context to some scenes. When you put the game and the manga together, the scenes are elevated, but the manga on its own continues to leave great things behind that I think make it a less enjoyable experience on its own. My current opinion is that I would not recommend the manga to someone who has not played or watched the game first. I think this manga is good as supplemental material for big fans of Omori, like me. But as a big fan, I would tell someone to avoid reading it, unless they refuse to take their interest towards the game because of the length or some other reason like that. Now moving on to chapter 9, we have a shorter chapter this time that just focuses on one scene, which is the scene at the hangout spot. And while it's short, I have a lot to say about it. I like this chapter a lot, and think this is a welcome change to the very fast pacing and long chapters that we've been getting. There are notable changes to this scene from the game, but I'm a big fan of how it plays out differently here. There are a lot of changes, but I think it works very well, as it is presented in the manga, and in some ways is even better. The tension and emotions of the confrontation between the main four are super strong, and I have a lot to say about how they're all victims and simultaneously at fault in their own ways. We pick right back up where we left off last chapter, with Sunny and Kel walking in on Aubrey and the hooligans' confrontation with Basil at the lake where they used to hang out. To be clear, when I refer to the hooligans, I mean all of the members outside of Aubrey. Like in the game, as of now, we do not know why Basil is here. Basil likely came back to the spot while thinking about the past. He's so unstable that he broke down into crying and screaming just from the hooligans telling him to leave. In the game, Kim immediately says that they should defend their turf and instigates the fight as soon as Sunny and Kel show up, while in the manga, all the instigation is said by Angel. He does have the "we'll mess you up" line in the game too, but Kim is really the one who started it in the game. Instead, Kim is the one who de-escalates by removing herself and the rest of the hooligans from the situation. In chapter 3 of the manga, Sunny and Kel helped Kim not get in serious trouble for stealing candy. They were able to de-escalate that bad situation she was in by putting up the money for the candy she stole. In this chapter, Kim returns the favor by keeping her and the other hooligans from starting a fight. Both the manga and the game get to the same point of Sunny and Kel being left alone with Aubrey and Basil by the lake, but through different processes. This is a great way of showing how things can play out differently in a way that feels natural to the altered story of the manga. I really like how this played out. If Omori was a game that had branching paths like you'd see in a visual novel and that kind of thing, this would fit right in as an alternative way to get to the same major story point. And thanks to the additional context of Aubrey's home life, this outcome is not as positive as it seems. In the game, Aubrey chooses to stay rather than leaving with the hooligans. Kim asks if she's coming with them as she leaves. Here, Kim is the one telling her to stay. Kim is being supportive here, telling Aubrey that it's about time that she settles this and says what she's been thinking. Obviously, this is true. Aubrey and the others can only sort these things out by properly communicating with each other. But from Aubrey's perspective, Kim and the others have left her here alone, which we see reminds her of her dad leaving them. Her father did not have much presence in the game. I believe there was only one line that confirms he just walked out on them. Her home life is much later in focus, while in the manga, we had this scene and the scene of Aubrey's home in chapter 6 that shows how much of an impact her home life had on her. It wasn't just Mari dying that hurt her. It seems like everyone left her in one way or another. Mari died, Sunny stayed in his house, Hiro went to college, Kel immersed himself in sports, and Basil eventually drew on the pictures that were precious to her. No one continued to support her the way a good friend should. The town as a whole openly chastises her too, like we see this in the church. She was so desperate for friends that she changed herself to a person of strength that others would gather around, even becoming a delinquent and engaging in behavior that she seems to know is wrong just so that she can fit in. So here, the only people who have been sticking by her the past few years just told her to do this on her own. The primary context for the confrontation between Aubrey, Basil, Kel, and Sunny is different between the game and the manga. In the game, the photo album is only brought up right as Aubrey pushes Basil. Aubrey primarily focuses on how they criticize her actions without recognizing that they weren't there for her when Mari died. But in the manga, the context is pretty much focused entirely on the album. Aubrey does not bring up them not being there for Mari's death like in the game. And I think that's okay, as the manga made her death clearer earlier than the game did. It was already touched on that the others did not support Aubrey after Mari's death in a way that she wanted. I really love the panel of her throwing out the pictures so much. Aubrey, Sunny, and Basil all have guilt stemming from what is talked about in this scene, and we can see it plainly on their faces. The tension in this scene is really strong and was very well built up to, in my opinion. There's a lot of angles to this scene that really needs to be considered. Aubrey and Kel both have misunderstandings from their limited perspectives. which lead to them making accusations that do not help them move forward in a healthy way. Everyone makes wrong moves, and everyone here is a victim of something. They're all children overwhelmed by grief. They all want to move forward, but don't know how. I actually like this scene a bit better in the manga than the game. I really like the part from the game of Aubrey screaming in frustration, but I think there's plenty of great emotions here that excuse its absence. I think the scene in the manga helps Aubrey's perspective a lot. We repeatedly get to see how conflicted she is throughout the whole scene. We shouldn't defend her hurting Basil, but from an emotional standpoint, some people need to be more sympathetic towards Aubrey. She has more in common with Basil than people, and Aubrey herself, think. They both felt like they were left alone to fester in their trauma by someone after Mori's death. The pictures may have been defined as the most special to Basil, but they still meant a lot to Aubrey, and to everyone. She cherished those memories like everyone else, and took her death very hard like everyone else. To see those memories you cherished preserved by these pictures that get drawn over it could totally break someone like this. I can't completely blame Aubrey for wanting to hurt whoever tainted those memories, and it's understandable for her to lash out when all of her suspects are in one place, and especially when those suspects are people who claim to be her friend after everything that's happened since Mori's death. They didn't make her feel like they were still friends. And I'm going to be honest here as we move on, and admit something I did not properly understand until now about the story of Omori, because there's a lot of details, a lot of subtext, a lot of things up to interpretation, but this is something that I didn't properly get. So Sunny is the one who draws on the photos, not Basil, apparently. In this scene, Basil covers for Sunny. This is something I actually had wrong. I thought Basil genuinely was the one who drew on them. What Basil says is, "It was all me." Emphasis on the all part of that sentence. This is a distinct choice to say all rather than like this was all me. This is showing that he would take the fall for everything that happened with Mori's death and everything since. He refuses to believe that Sunny would do something bad. Later in the game, we learn that Basil believes that the something that Sunny has been seeing and that Basil has his own version of is what pushed Mori and made them string up her corpse. Remember that Basil, with the time that's passed after, has effectively been alone this entire time. The cry for help that brought Sunny and Kel here can have multiple layers. It can specifically be meant for Sunny, who he knows is back and who Basil's been fixated on ever since Mori's death. The cry for help can be in general to the world, because he's been struggling so much this whole time, with no one he could probably relate to being there for him. Aubrey chastises him for playing the victim. Out of everyone, Basil is probably the biggest victim here. But from hiding the truth like how Sunny's been, looking away from the truth, Basil does not do what is needed here to help everyone move forward. Moving on to Sunny. Sunny is at fault here by also not coming clean. A major theme of this game is that Sunny does not face the truth, and we see the repercussions of that in this scene. Aubrey is right in that Sunny let the others do the talking for him a lot of the time, and to blame him for shutting the others out of his life when he and they need each other the most. He did that too. But she recognizes the bit of agency that he can have in certain moments that we've seen in the manga, both good and bad. Because I know our precious boy Sunny, who's been through a lot of terrible things, is very unwell, which is very understandable. But don't let yourself forget that Sunny cut Aubrey with a knife earlier in the story. He is not without his own spur-of-the-moment violence towards fellow friends, the way that Aubrey has been doing. But while he is the one who started this whole story, he is still a child who never intended for any of this to happen. The grief he would feel for killing his sister would be overwhelming. We've all had times where we've done something wrong and covered it up. It's instinct. This is obviously more extreme than in most cases, but the instinctual action for a child to take is still the same. But by continuing to not come clean, he foists the blame onto Basil. I will defend that we should have sympathy for Sunny, obviously. You should have sympathy for everyone here if you're properly understanding things, in my opinion, and reacting the way you should in a healthy way. But it's clearly the wrong thing for him to do to continue hiding things. And then, moving on to Kel. There is some fairness to calling Kel self-righteous, like they do in the game, or simple, like they do here in the manga. I think that Kel has been looking at things between them as friends and former friends exclusively on the surface, without really regarding the nuance and things he doesn't personally know. It's understandable for Kel to think Aubrey and the others are lying about them not hurting Basil, and her not ruining the pictures. After their previous confrontations, it's been made clear from Kel's perspective that she is aggressive and unstable. But he assumes Aubrey must be hurting him because Basil's the one on the ground crying, while Aubrey's the one standing. He jumps straight to demanding Aubrey get back the pictures, rather than asking for her own side of the story first. It makes sense that he would want to get the photo album back to Basil, but that can wait when you're in the middle of a confrontation. He assumes Basil would never damage the pictures because of how he used to be, and that Sunny wouldn't have done it, again because of how he used to be. He says that she's crazy and stops her from doing anything after pushing Basil. He doesn't properly acknowledge her feelings or side of the story, in my opinion. This entire scene, I feel like all he does is blame Aubrey. And obviously that's not a good way to de-escalate or try to break ground with someone, because he clearly wants to do that. Kel's a good person, he wants to be friends with everyone. But he's not doing the right things here, that's true. He is genuinely acting on what he believes is right based on what he knows, but he is very much the one who I would say is the most in the dark and disconnected. Mari's death likely hit him the least hard out of everyone, but it still hurt to lose her and then the friend group. He still lost contact with his friends and is trying his best to remedy that. But here he is not doing a good job of that either. No one's perfect, and everyone, especially these characters, have things they regret that prevent them from moving past their traumas. The point is here, say that these are all flawed, multi-layer characters that are all at fault and have some guilt that we should properly acknowledge. The point of scenes like this is not to say that this person is wrong and everyone else is right, or try to pick who is the one character that's wrong, like I feel like people can tend to do when things are very polarized. Everyone has faults here. That's the point. That's what you should understand. Moving on, like in the game, Aubrey gets overwhelmed with anger towards Basil, seemingly understanding that he's the one who drew over the pictures by his own admission, and pushes him into the lake by accident. Aubrey pushing Basil into the lake actually is a parallel for Sunny pushing Mari. In both cases, someone unintentionally hurt someone they cared about in a fit of anger, but thankfully it didn't have the same outcome. The swirling water behind Basil looks really freaky and cool, and is metaphorical for how he's been spiraling since Mari's death. You get to see the regret on Aubrey's face right after she pushes him too. Here, Sunny goes in to save Basil like in the game, but with slightly different context. Another change is that Kel does not tell Sunny to go help Basil. Sunny does it on his own. We see Sunny's heart rate increase before he dives in, visually, which is a cool way to show that, and it mimics the hesitation he shows in the game to overcome his fear, where he shows the tentacles and stuff. And this part tracks with the previous chapters, giving Sunny more agency. Once Sunny jumps in the water, things continue to play out differently. In the game version of the underwater segment, Sunny follows Aubrey down the stairs in the house, just kidding, Mari, until he encounters something in the water. Mari teaches him to calm down until he wins the fight. Then it cuts to Sunny still in the water, with Mari grabbing his hand, then showing Hiro over him in the real world. In the manga, we first see the door to white space open with Omori standing in the frame. Omori reaches his hand out to Sunny, with them almost touching, until Mari comes in just like the game. We get an additional visual of Mari happily crying over Sunny being okay, before we cut to Hiro standing over him. So I think there's a lot you can interpret with this scene. I think if Sunny had taken Omori's hand, I think he would have drowned and died, even with Hiro there. Omori's intention is for Sunny to die. In the game, you get the bad ending by giving up against Omori. Sunny refuses to face the truth of what happened and commits suicide by jumping off the roof of the hospital. Two different sides of Sunny's internal thinking try to quote-unquote save him here, and thankfully the good side won. To again bring up the idea of Omori in the game having more paths, this definitely feels like it could have been another path that led to his death. Any game with choices presents the theme of how things can dramatically play out differently based on small actions. Omori, as a game and a manga, does a good job of showing how small changes can have big impacts in life, while still ending and taking you to the same place. And, of course, our boy hero is finally here, saving the day just like in the game. And that is where this chapter ends. And I just want to say, I think it looks fine in both, but I actually like how Hero looks here a bit better than in the game, honestly. We'll have to wait and see how the next chapter plays out. Since this chapter ends with Hero saving Sunny, I assume we will continue in the real world with the repercussions of this before they go into the Search for Your Friend segment. If the next chapter has the same length of previous chapters, I will guess that we could very well go through The Last Resort entirely in one chapter. But if they go with the length of this chapter, definitely not. Now, I'm less confident that this will end by chapter 12 like I previously predicted, but it's really hard to say. Now that we have an outlier with a shorter chapter, who knows? This could be the new normal, they can go back to the old normal, I don't really know. But I'm really excited to keep reading. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed. And check out my website, Blog Under a Log, in the description, which has write-ups of pretty much all of my videos and some articles that have not made it to YouTube, such as my manga chapter reviews of Bocchi the Rock, and some articles written by other people. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to financially support me, or as a free member, you can get updates on when I upload on my blog and here on my YouTube channel.